Hey, good morning, everyone. And this is, in a way, episode number 1
of many to come.
Yeah. So we had the soft opening last week. We discovered this by accident. So this is episode 1 of The Old and the Restless. The Old and the Restless.
He's old and I'm restless.
Something like that. And so that you'll be able to find these episodes at
www.oldandtherestless.com.
Oh, no, the
oldandtherestless.com.
See,
we are not Nick, Nikki, and Victor.
No.
I'm Phyllis and
Andy Norton, and we are both with Sampson Properties. And so one of the things about The Old and the Restless is that we have a senior audience. Primarily, I mean, I've got like half gray hair and half a bald spot, so it's a senior audience.
Because we live in a senior community called Lansdowne Woods.
That's right. So that's going to be like a primary audience. But today we have a whole list of other topics that will relate to Loudoun County in general, and really kind of Northern Virginia in general.
Northern Virginia, but also topics that will influence your property in Lansdowne Woods and all of Loudoun County, really.
I think so. And because this is unscripted, and this is episode number 1, we reserve the right to embarrass ourselves, sort of, in front of the camera, okay? But hopefully this is going to come off okay. Do you want to begin with what I didn't want to talk about, or do you want to begin with a script?
No. What I'm going to begin with, last week we talked about our brand new newsletter that came out, and I was in favor of a recipe, and we have gotten feedback.
Okay.
And there
Is
will
that a
be
pun?
There will, yes.
Feedback recipe?
Yes, there will be a recipe in future. Now, Andy, you wanted to talk about something else. Go ahead.
About President Trump and his housing emergency?
Yes, you have my permission.
Well, thank you. President Trump and also, is it Secretary of the Treasury, Bessent?
Bessent.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're speaking in the past week about possibly, and because it was possibly, this is why you didn't want to get into it, because it may not happen, a housing emergency having to do with affordability, the lack of affordability, so that young people are essentially frozen out of the housing market by affordability issues. Now, they have not said what it is that they're thinking of doing. But I had a couple suggestions.
You have lots of thoughts, Andy.
Okay, so not that the president is going to listen to me, although maybe
he will.
Maybe he will. So
President Trump, if you're listening, pay attention. Andy has good ideas.
Okay, so idea number 1: if the purpose of declaring a housing emergency is to somehow allow more people who are renters, primarily young people, to buy homes and to build equity and generational wealth and that kind of thing, 2 things they could do. The first one, in no particular order, is allow people who have low interest rate mortgages to let those be portable. And what that means is if you have a mortgage now and you sell your home, that mortgage gets paid off. And one of the things keeping people frozen in place, if they've got a 3% mortgage for the rest of their lives, they don't want to sell and take on a 6% mortgage. Who would? But one of the things that the government could do, I think, is allow portability. So if they've got a 3% mortgage and they're living in Ashburn, for example.
Yeah, for example.
Yes,
okay.
And they want to go to Florida, for example. Let them sell their house in Ashburn, buy in Florida, and take their mortgage with them at the interest rate that they've got. And that would free up a tremendous amount of inventory. But part of this is they shouldn't just be selling to anybody. It's people who are in the age group of our videographer there, okay, who is smiling and nodding, that you're in the demographic that needs the assistance so that you can buy. So that if people want to be able to have their mortgage portable, they must sell to somebody in the same age group as our illustrious videographer here. Would you like to be in front of the camera? Come over and wave. Yes, you. Yeah.
And then,
Yes.
and then people like our videographer could go for the first-time home buyer,
And then
the
they can
HDA,
and then they
that
can
we
get a
talked
first-
about last week.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to, but yes.
That's okay.
Yes. And so there are programs out there for first-time home buyers, but the first thing is you need inventory of homes for first-time home buyers to buy. So if somebody is selling, let them take their mortgage with them, and that will free up inventory for people who are younger, who are just starting out.
And let's just emphasize this: these are only thoughts at
These
this
are-
point.
These are only thoughts.
But if you like the thoughts that Andy has suggested, write to your congressman, send a letter to Trump, and hopefully it'll get on his desk.
That's right. And hey, maybe they'll invite me to, they can invite us to the White House for lunch.
Maybe.
It could happen. So another thing that would be a great idea, I think, if an investor, and there are lots of investors out there who own multiple homes, let them sell to first-time home buyers and give them, let's say, a window of time, like 1 year. And if an investor sells to a first-time home buyer, then waive the capital gains on the sale of the investment property.
That's an interesting idea. Andy's always thinking and researching,
And researching, that's right.
which is why we're a little bit opposite. As you remember from last week, I have my wine and water. What do you have, Andy?
Oh, so yes, you have your wine and water, but being the resident nerd here, there is a brand of water. I don't know if you've ever seen this, speaking to our videographer here. It's called Liquid Death Mountain Water. And I just thought it was creative.
And it just tastes like water.
It just tastes like water. But it definitely doesn't taste as good as Cooper's Hawk wine.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So, in no particular order, where would you like to start on our cheat sheet list of topics?
Well, let's start talking about the influence of growth in Loudoun County. From what I understand, it has the population in Loudoun County has doubled in the last 20 years. And there's a lot of reasons why. One of which is data centers. As you all know, there's lots of data centers going up. And Andy has actually visited one,
Yeah.
so he knows about them a little bit more than I do. Would you like to talk about data centers, Andy?
Okay, so first, people know there are a lot of data centers in Loudoun County, but they may not know how many data centers. And this is sort of shocking, I think.
It is. 199 and 117 in the pipeline, to be exact.
To be exact, according to Google. So we're going to give props to Google on this. 199 data centers, which means that Loudoun County and Northern Virginia generally have more data centers than anywhere else on Earth.
In the world.
In the
That
world.
is correct.
Yeah, which is why Loudoun County specifically has the nickname Data Center Alley.
Yes. Of which a lot of them are in the Ashburn area.
Yeah.
The large transformer stations, if you all been down to southern Loudoun, you've seen them, I'm sure. But the data centers require an awfully lot of electricity.
And the new generation of computer chips for artificial intelligence require even more electricity than the existing data centers need. And this kind of leads into some of the controversy in the community where we live.
Yes.
Because there is it's a proposal, but it's likely going to go through, to run monstrous power lines up Route 7 to bring power into existing and future data centers. Should I tell them about my tour?
Yes, please. Tell
Okay.
them what it's like inside a data center.
So a year ago, I actually got an invite to do a tour on a data center in Ashburn. Not only was it the first time for me to go through a data center, I don't think I've met anybody else who's taken a tour through a data center. There were only like 5 of us.
I didn't even know you were allowed to.
And there was very heavy security. So there were like me and 4 other people. And then, so the tour guide was, he was a big muscular dude. He looked like a former veteran. But there was a guy behind the 4 of us who was also a big muscular dude, to make sure that none of us sort of got out of line and we simply followed along in the tour.
So you went through a lot of checkpoints. How many?
So I don't have any security background. So as a layperson, I counted 14 different security checkpoints.
Did they make you take your clothes off?
If the camera goes off, we'll have true confessions. But control yourself. So, but in any case, so the main checkpoint is where you go through with your car. And the individual behind the glass, it looked to be like a heavily fortified initial checkpoint with the person behind the glass that wants to know who you are, and in advance we had to say our names and also the make and color of the car going through the checkpoint so that all of that would align.
Well, I actually am kind of glad that they go to those extremes, because can you imagine the wrong person coming into a data center and destroying all of this data that's so important?
So if you've driven past a data center, they look pretty much like the size of a Walmart Supercenter or a Target. But once you're inside, from the floor to the ceiling, it's just racks of computers. Rack after rack, row after row, as far as the eye can see, of computers.
And who actually owns the building, Andy?
So
how does that work?
There are several different ways this can work. The one that I was invited into, there is a company called DLR, and DLR is a global company of data centers. So they have data centers in the United States and in Europe and in Africa and in Asia. And what they do is their business model, they will actually rent out data rack space to companies that cannot afford to have their own data centers. And there are evidently so many companies that need data processing in a data center that can't afford to have their own. The vacancy rate in a DLR data center is 2%.
Wow, that's really low.
That's nothing. And so, but the other part of your question, who else? And in Loudoun County, this is kind of interesting. Amazon has a bunch of data centers, and Amazon has a completely different company within a company called Amazon Web Services, which is abbreviated AWS. Microsoft has their data centers. Google has their data centers. So there are lots of different companies that have data centers.
And you had told me last night about Amazon having one down in Manassas. 230 acres, I think it was.
Yes.
And they paid like $2 million per acre?
That's right. This is, to me, staggering, but it shows you the profitability of data centers and also how our society is becoming more dependent on data processing, that the going rate for a piece of land with nothing on it that is entitled for a data center is over $2 million an acre. And there was one just last week that was announced, a purchase, at $2,400,000 and change per acre in Manassas.
Well, then that leads us back to how it actually benefits our community. Loudoun County is actually able to reduce the property tax in Loudoun County from $1.14 per hundred down to 80 $0.015 per hundred. That's a tremendous reduction in property tax.
And the income from data centers, tax revenue into Loudoun County, at a presentation I had heard by a Loudoun County official, is that essentially the entire Loudoun County budget, except for schools, is now paid for by revenue from data centers. I mean, this is
38%, isn't it?
something like that.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. So as individual residents, and some of this, look, filters down into Prince William County, where Manassas is, and Fairfax County, and that not only keeps our property taxes low, but it brings in new population growth of people who are educated in technological subjects, and those people are typically highly paid, and so they pay a high rate of tax as well.
And Andy told me last night about the appearance of data centers, how ugly people think that they are. And what did I say, Andy?
So as far as you are concerned, I mean, look, a data center is not a thing of beauty. And at best, they look like a Walmart supercenter. But you used another term.
I said they're no more ugly than these buildings I see that look like oversized Johnny houses. And Andy didn't know what a Johnny house was.
I had never heard the term until last night of a Johnny house. Yeah. So let's ask our illustrious videographer come back in front of the camera for a second. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Don't embarrass
Okay.
her.
Do you know what a Johnny house is?
I don't.
Okay. So
Let me tell you what a Johnny house is.
Okay.
It's a small structure in the back of a property that does not have indoor plumbing and an indoor toilet. So it's built out of wood, and this is why people valued Sears Roebuck catalogs, because they stayed in the Johnny house. I grew up with one, that's how I know. And my mother grew up with one.
Right.
That is a Johnny house.
Okay. So I used an expression that you agreed with. You can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl.
But our audience, because we're old and restless, our audience is going to know what a Johnny house is. I bet you a lot of you grew up with one.
Okay.
But anyway, that aside, back to the topic at hand.
Yes. Okay. So because Loudoun now has, as of the springtime, we may have crossed over the threshold, 199 data centers and more counting. People who are in other parts of the country or the world who may be watching this, if a data center is roughly the size of a Walmart supercenter, and in fact many of them are much larger than a Walmart, imagine a county with a couple hundred Walmart supercenters and 100 more in the pipeline. I mean, this is considerable. And because of the power requirements of all these data centers and the power lines that are being erected to feed the power in, and then your sore point, the transformers. You don't like the look of the transformers at all.
They're huge. I've never seen them so big.
Yeah. So to a certain extent, the appearance of our county is being transformed, and there are a lot of people, not just seniors, who really don't like the aesthetic. And so I think Loudoun County last year, for the very first time, passed limitations on approvals for data centers. Because up until a year or so ago, a data center company could simply build them by right, but no longer. Now they need to be approved.
Yes, they need to be approved, and they're trying to do their best to sort of reserve certain areas for them and not put them all in one place, scatter them around a little bit.
Yes.
And hopefully away from some of the more residential areas too.
Right, which kind of feeds into another topic, by the way, because Microsoft has their own campus, meaning more than one. They got a bunch of data centers in Leesburg in Loudoun County. alongside a road called the Greenway, which may be a misnomer in itself, which runs from Dulles Airport out to Leesburg and is a toll road. So a few years ago, there was a government contract through the Department of Defense, and Microsoft and Amazon both won pieces of this contract. And Microsoft bought land, which there's almost no entry in and out of there except through a checkpoint, alongside the Greenway. And
what are they going to use it for?
well, top secret Department of Defense kind of stuff. And with this contract first
So
one,
if you tell me you got to kill me?
well, moving right along. On the other side of the Greenway from the Microsoft campus, there is, so the next thing that's on our list here is they started construction, the Mid-Atlantic headquarters of
The tennis.
the USTA. The United States Tennis Association is building its Mid-Atlantic regional headquarters on the opposite side of the Greenway from what had been a secret Microsoft data center campus. Had been. So the USTA is going to have, was it 50 courts, 51 courts, something like that.
Something like that.
And
A lot.
A lot, that's right. And so in a nod to current trends, of the 51 courts that the USTA will be building, I think 8 of them will be pickleball courts. But one of the courts is going to be humongous with spectator stands like a Wimbledon, so that they can have competition events in Leesburg at the Mid-Atlantic headquarters of the USTA, which will be on the other side of the Greenway from this Microsoft data center
And
campus.
how is that going to affect property values? Your opinion.
Okay. You want to know my opinion?
Yes.
Okay. So part of this community where the USTA will be, they're building 1,100 homes. And so between the USTA campus and I think it's called, is it Heritage High School? I think it's called Heritage High School. There will be 1,100 homes built. And this community is called the Village of Clear Springs. The village isn't built yet, but it will have 1,100 homes, and then the USTA campus as part of it. And all of which on the other side of the Greenway, now undeveloped from the Microsoft data center campus. In a way, not just in a way, they're putting Loudoun County on the map as a tennis development mecca for young people to have access to the best in coaching.
Well, if Loudoun County has doubled over the past 20 years, what is this going to do?
I think you'll agree that parents of young athletes, whatever the sport, it takes money to have a kid in sports and to get them the coaching that they need and the travel that they need. But Loudoun County, in part through the data centers and other tech, we are, by median income, the wealthiest county in America. I mean, it's hard to imagine. So, but in any case, I think that the USTA, when they're looking at the population demographics, they're seeing that the population there has the money to support their kids in the coaching and the travel that it takes to bring a child from, when do they start? Tennis toddler? Being a toddler, pretty much?
As soon as they can hold a racket.
As soon as they can hold a racket, up through the college ranks.
And toss a ball.
And toss a ball. Okay. I'll take your word for it. I'm so uncoordinated I can't hold the racket or toss the ball. So that's a joke. Our videographer should be laughing. That's a joke. So in any case, in Leesburg on the other side of the Greenway from the data center campus for Microsoft will be the USTA regional headquarters and 51 courts and this community with 1,100 homes next to a high school. I don't know that Loudoun County is going to be all that thrilled with having 1,100 homes next to a high school, Because assuming that the people who buy the 1,100 homes have kids that need to be educated, you've got a lot of kids who are going to have to be feeding into that high school.
Maybe they need to build another one.
Finding the land to build
That
the
is
schools
true.
is an issue. And in part because who is the school system competing with for land?
The data centers.
The data centers. So there are interesting choices within Loudoun County ahead of us, not just in the data centers, but all the spin-off in effects downstream from that.
Well, one of the items that I'm really excited for you to talk about, Andy, is the new Science Museum, because
Yes.
I love science, and this sounds like it's going to be something that everybody is going to be interested in going to.
Yeah. So
And
we drove past the location. You want to tell them more or less where this is?
well, it's really close to us. It's close to, is it off of Gloucester?
Yes. A community called Kincora. So almost everyone watching this will have heard of One Loudoun. But what most people don't know is that there's another community that will be much bigger than One
Kincora,
Loudoun that's
yeah.
coming out of the ground alongside Route 28 called Kincora. And Kincora will be anchored by the Science Museum. And the Science Museum is going to be a big deal. It is funded in part by the state of Virginia, but in part by wealthy corporations like Amazon Web Services.
Yes. And they're already here.
And they're already here. And the museum should be open in a couple of years. And it will have different wings with different focuses on different aspects of technology. Some of the wings, and if you Google this, it's interesting, are already being paid for, sponsored by wealthy local tech families. So yes, Amazon will have their wing, but local tech families will have theirs. And the idea is it to be a lifelong learning center, people of all ages, including seniors.
The old and the restless.
Including the old and the restless, yes.
Just a point of
A point of order here.
a point of interest.
Okay.
You showed me the big, huge globe that was taken from what used to be Leisure World, which
Yes.
is now Lansdowne Woods,
Yes.
and that globe is now in front of a church.
It's now in front of a
And
church.
it's right near where the Science Museum is going.
That's right. So those of you who are either familiar with Leisure World or what is now known as Lansdowne Woods know that there used to be this massive sculpture of a globe in front of it, which was like the trademark for Leisure World.
Is it like a copper? What metal was that globe out of?
What?
Anyway,
Yeah, copper, brass, something that
it's
looks like copper.
large and golden looking.
That's right. And so when Lansdowne Woods transitioned from Leisure World, this church that's next to the Science Center bought what used to be our globe.
Yes.
And it now sits in front of the church. And next to that will be the Science Center. And the projected, I'll say, tourism through the Science Center, as of yesterday, they're projecting 300,000 visitors a year.
Wow.
And because this is supposed to be a lifelong learning center, the focus is on what's called STEM, S-T-E-M, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And so this is sort of like, in a way, a spin-off from the data centers and the population that moves here that's attracted by the technology because the data centers are here. Because when those people have kids, the parents will want to have their kids educated in science, technology, engineering,
And math.
and math. So it was not a surprise to me to see that Amazon Web Services will have one wing of this museum all to themselves to talk about aspects of technology having to do with the internet and artificial intelligence.
So the point that I'm taking away with today, Andy, is that even though people have been talking about the real estate market sort of being soft and going down, Loudoun County, however, is still booming.
Absolutely, absolutely. And an interesting takeaway on this having to do with actually one on Amazon and one on Microsoft. Which do you want to do first, Amazon or Microsoft?
Let's do Amazon because
Okay.
of the A in the alphabetical order.
There you go. Okay, yeah. So Amazon has government contracts for running entire federal agencies, not just AI. And they have contracts at last count, according to Google, over 7,500 different government agencies globally that AWS is providing the internet access for, the internet backbone. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Depending on who you ask, some people have said, and I actually believe this, that if the entire congressional and executive branches of government were to shut down for a period of time, like months, as long as Amazon Web Services is running, that the government agencies would continue to function because Amazon Web Services is running them all. And even if that's an overstatement, it's not an overstatement by much. So, and Amazon Web Services is now making more money for Amazon than retail is making money for Amazon. So when we all order something from Amazon, and we tend to think of it as a retail company, and we see the trucks and we see the boxes that are left on our doorstep, they're making more money from Amazon Web Services than they are from retail.
What does that have to do with property values? I keep going back to that.
Okay. I think what it has to do with property values in the Washington metropolitan area generally, and not just Loudoun County, and not just data centers, is that the wealthiest counties in America are all in the Washington metropolitan area, and particularly in Northern Virginia. And if you start in Alexandria, where what they call HQ2 of Amazon is, and go up along the Potomac River from Alexandria to Arlington County and Fairfax County and then Loudoun County and then all the way to Leesburg, these are the wealthiest jurisdictions in America. And the wealth that has been brought in by high tech. And the people who are coming in as a result of the population having doubled provide the anchor for our property values. So that's...
Okay, I just wanted to get that point across.
And I'm sorry I was so long-winded.
And then you were going to talk about someone else too.
That's right.
That was further down the scale of the
Microsoft.
alphabet. Microsoft.
Yes, further down the alphabetical scale. So Microsoft, interestingly, so the whole issue of how does a company power their data centers? Because what we were saying is that the power lines that are being brought up Route 7, that will be an aesthetic nightmare. And there have been public hearings to protest all this. I think you've attended a couple, have you not?
I have. They're very interesting.
Okay.
I think they've made the decision. They just like to appease the audience. Pretty much.
And I think that's true. They just want to appease the citizens who are there and then go ahead and build their power lines. But Microsoft, for their part, announced recently, and I thought this was somewhere between astonishing and quasi-scandalous. You remember 3 Mile Island, the nuclear plant meltdown?
Yes.
Okay. So those of you who are younger, because remember, this is the old and the restless audience. So those of you who are younger may not know what 3 Mile Island is, but 3 Mile Island is an island in a river in Pennsylvania that had nuclear power plants where there was a radiation leak and a nuclear disaster. Microsoft has bought 3 Mile Island with the intention of rehabilitating the nuclear reactors on 3 Mile Island so that they will have a power source for their data centers.
No. Well, that's actually smart.
If they're able to pull it off.
If they're able to pull it off.
Okay. And I don't doubt with all the billions that they have that if anybody can pull it off, Microsoft can pull it off.
Can.
Yeah, so all of which feeds back in a big loop to where we live, and people, seniors particularly, we worry about the future, right?
Yes.
And in part because so many of us are on fixed incomes with retirement looming if we're not in retirement already.
Yes, correct.
But the growth that's going on all around us ensures that we will have, regardless of what the world goes through pretty much, regardless of what the country goes through pretty much, because we're the wealthiest jurisdiction in America, for better or for worse, we're going to have an infrastructure of prosperity that will prop us up really for the rest of our lives as seniors. Should we talk about the underside of this all, though? The Panera Bread aspect? Okay. So we said this wasn't scripted, okay? So one of the things that we discovered is that our local Panera Bread, and I think this is true all across the country, the excess bread that they have each night, they like to donate to charity.
Well, it's restaurants that do it too.
Restaurants do it too.
They have food to throw away, but go ahead.
Okay. And Panera, because it's bread, they call it a donation, like dough, D-O-U-G, a donation. But they can't just give it to anybody. They have to give it to a charity, like a 501c3 charity. But what we discovered at the Panera Bread most close to us is that there is one approved charity, and you would think that in a county as affluent as Loudoun, so first, there are poor people. We do have people in need. And so they had one 501c3, which was on the hook for 2 days of the week. And the other 5 days of the week, they were taking all this extra food and throwing it out.
We watched them put it in the trash cans.
And I mean, it makes you sick to see all of this food, and there are people in need around us, and they put it in the trash can.
So we're trying to find some 501cs that are willing to put their name in the hat and to help out some people that really need to have this food.
That's right. And you have to think that if Panera Bread is throwing out their food, how many other restaurants are similarly throwing out the amount of waste for people around us who are in need is almost like a scandal within the news. So, and I think, is it the church that you're going to that has a food donation program? Did I understand this right?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
That's one possibility.
Okay. And so let's put public pressure on them. Within that church, they should be able to find 5 kids, one for each day of the week, to go to Panera Bread and get this food so that it can be donated to people in the community in need. One would hope.
One would hope.
one would hope.
But
Okay.
but I think we're near the end of today's session, but we need to tell people how to find our videos.
Yes. So we are getting the signal from our videographer that we are near the end of today's initial broadcast of The Old and the Restless. So in order to find this and subsequent issues of The Old and the Restless, they need to go to
TheOldandTheRestless.com.
And if you forget theoldandtherestless.com, you can always call the phone number on the screen here, 703-627-1999, and we will direct you to where you can find this and subsequent episodes, and also influence us as to future topics that we discuss.
Let us hear from you as to what you want to hear us talk about.
Including but not limited to
Wine.
Yes.
I can tell you about all the good wineries around.
Yeah.
Cooper's Hawk happens to be one of them. I'm a wine club member there.
Okay. So that's going to be a topic for our next video, wineries, because Loudoun County has a gazillion wineries.
Well, I don't know about a gazillion. How many zeros is that anyway? I don't know.
Enough to keep people drinking Cabernet and Merlot for quite a while.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone, thank you for watching this inaugural video of...
No, it's The Old and the Restless.
That's right.
The Young and the Restless is the soap opera that I watch.
That's right. And we will not degenerate into our own soap opera. Okay. Theoldandtherestless.com. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.